In 1937, in a gasworks laboratory in Paris, France, a chemical engineer working alone and late into the evening was approached by a dark figure that bore a message, a warning. The warning was about the physicist this man was working for, André Heilbronner, whose work was in nuclear physics. This was years before the start of the Manhattan Project and 8 years before the first nuclear weapons test. The mysterious person informed the man that it was possible to extract dangerous amounts of energy from tiny pieces of matter. He went on to explain that the atomic energy that they were about to unleash was already known by alchemic masters of the past. The man claimed to be such a master, and his name was the alchemist Fulcanelli, a man who would have been over 100 years old. Fulcanelli was the name used by a French alchemist and esoteric author who lived in the early 20th century. His real identity is still unknown, but he left behind 2 books that reveal his profound knowledge of alchemical symbolism, architecture, art, and philosophy. He also claimed to have achieved the ultimate goal of alchemy, the transmutation of lead into gold, using a mysterious substance called the Philosopher's Stone. Other witnesses that have met Fulcanelli suggest that the modern master not only had the ability to transmute lead into gold, but break through the fabric of reality, shapeshift, and become immortal. He was able to do that because of the alchemist's holy grail, the elixir of life, or the Philosopher's Stone. We talked about what this could be in our Thoth video, and researching this and what Fulcanelli says about it, my theory seems to be close to the mark. He claims that it is not a substance that you transmute, but yourself, or spirit, or soul. But who was Fulcanelli, and how did he acquire such secrets? And what happened to him after he disappeared from the public eye in 1926? Fulcanelli's name seems to be a play on words. Vulcan, the ancient Roman god of fire, plus El, a Canaanite name for God, and so the sacred fire. He was probably born in the late 19th century and educated in France. He was fluent in several languages, including Latin and Greek, and had a vast knowledge of ancient and medieval texts, especially those related to alchemy and Hermeticism. He had at least 3 students who became his close associates: Eugène Castellet, Jean-Julien Champagne, and Gaston Savage. Castellet was his first and most devoted disciple, who met him when he was only 16 years old. Champagne was an artist who illustrated his books with intricate drawings. Savage was a witness to one of his transmutations. Fulcanelli wrote 2 books that were published after his disappearance: The Mystery of the Cathedrals and The Dwellings of the Philosophers. In these books, he revealed that many of the Gothic cathedrals and other historical monuments in Europe were actually encoded with alchemical secrets that only the initiated could decipher. He also explained the meaning of various alchemical symbols and concepts, such as the Great Work, the Emerald Tablet, the 4 Elements, and the Quintessence. But Fulcanelli was not just a scholar. He was also a practitioner of alchemy, who claimed to have achieved the ultimate goal of the art, the transmutation of base metals into gold using a mysterious substance called the Philosopher's Stone. This substance was said to be a red powder that could transform any metal into gold or silver, as well as grant immortality and enlightenment to its possessor. Fulcanelli is reputed to have twice performed this feat in front of witnesses. The first time was in 1922, when he and Castellet transmuted 100 grams of lead into gold in a laboratory in Sarcelles, using a small quantity of projection powder prepared by Fulcanelli. The second time was in 1937, when he transmuted 225 grams of lead into gold and 100 grams of silver into uranium at the Chateau de Lyre before a group of scientists. But what happened to Fulcanelli after he disappeared from the public eye in 1926? According to Castellet, he saw him again in 1953 at a Spanish castle. He said that Fulcanelli looked much younger than his age and had a radiant complexion. Inside the castle, Castellet looked over to the courtyard, where children played in the grass, and the adults stood around the perimeter, talking amongst themselves. He claims the attire they were wearing seemed to be from the 16th century. After he left the castle, the memories became difficult to retain and became fuzzier and fuzzier, almost like he had been in an alternate dimension and had now returned. He also said that Fulcanelli told him about a secret project involving nuclear weapons that could destroy humanity. He described in great detail how a small bit of metal could destroy cities and poison the air of the entire planet, that there had been civilizations in the past that were familiar with atomic energy and that by misusing it, they were totally destroyed. He warned that these civilizations in the past had a moral foundation with their religions, and that modern science has no moral compass. If we look at ancient India and certain archaeological sites that have strange blast signs and human remains that are radiated, this would lead credence to this tale. He then warned him to stay away from Paris and gave him some hints about his true identity. The precursor to the CIA even began a search for him at one point for his knowledge of nuclear secrets. It would seem to be a national security issue. They claimed he may have a manuscript detailing nuclear fission and fusion. Now, there are many theories about who Fulcanelli really was and whether he is still alive today. Some say he was a member of a secret society called the Brothers of Heliopolis, which included other alchemists and occultists. Some say he was actually one of his students, such as Castellet or Champagne. Some say he was a famous physicist or chemist, such as Jules Viol or Pierre Curie. Some say he was a member of the French nobility or royalty, such as Henri de Bourbon or Louis XVII. But none of these theories have been proven conclusively. Fulcanelli remains a mystery to this day. He is one of the most fascinating and mysterious figures in the history of alchemy and esotericism. But what to make of this story? There are real books written by someone or some people. There are real witnesses and events, and there is a lot of circumstantial evidence proving his existence. But of course, it's all circumstantial. There is no concrete proof of his actual existence, or whether he was an amalgamation or a hoax. But if you've watched this channel, you will know what I'm about to say next. Because with stories like this, it's not ultimately about whether it's true or not true. In this story, we do have two books that are and were written by someone or some people. Those are real. There is always some bits of truth in all these stories, which makes it difficult to write them off completely. And it once again comes down to what you want to believe. In a story like this, the man becomes a legend, and the legend becomes a real thing. A story that bases some level of belief in the magical or alchemical in this case. The possibility of transmuting matter, energy, and ourselves is one that I believe needs to be left open. And at the same time, no one wants to be led on a path by a hoax, someone trying to pull one over on them, lying, trying to scam them. No one wants to be gullible. So what do we do when we want to believe? Many will lean on the side of the skeptic, but I caution that, for often that was my path, and it leads down a very narrow path, one devoid of wonder and magic, while the other path widens and spans great distances. And while possible to lose oneself in it, wouldn't that be better than the dreariness and hopelessness of the narrow path? Alright, now it's time for you to tell me what you think about Fulcanelli. Who do you think he was, and do you believe he really transmuted lead into gold? Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out a small channel like this. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.